News of the day.
Mr. Zimmerman, have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in this case?
With values that never die.
There are certainly a lot of controversies or scandals brewing right now when it comes to the Obama administration.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Dealing with the federal government is not always high-tech, and it's not always user-friendly.
The stories that matter.
This is a massive escalation in the tension here in Egypt.
The issues that count.
I don't know why the media tries to make this into a sensation. We have never hidden the fact that we supply Syria with weapons.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
He's got the red, white, blue flying high on the farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spend a little more in the store for a tag. In the back it says USA.
Welcome to American Heartland with Dr. Grace. I am your host, the editor of Politics and Culture at WorldTribune.com. It is great to be with you on this Labor Day weekend. What a fascinating week we had. And the highlight was, once again, Donald Trump making waves and making news. He pledged to support the Republican nominee, whoever that may be, and not to run as a third-party candidate, as an independent, if he loses this contest. And everyone is asking this question. Did he make the right move or the wrong move? Is this going to help him? Is it going to help to win others who might be weary of him? Or is it going to hurt him? Is it going to hurt him in the sense of all those who see him as an insurgent, as an outsider? Is he now going to be seen as an insider by those folks and therefore tarnish his brand? Well, I'm on the camp that this clearly helps him. This is the right move for him. This is a brilliant move for him. In fact, if you recall my monologue after the first Fox News debate, I said that he made a very big mistake there. When he was asked point blank which of the candidates will not support the eventual nominee, who doesn't want to take the pledge that they will support the Republican nominee, whoever it is, he is the one that put up his hand saying he wasn't necessarily going to support the eventual Republican nominee. I said in my monologue at the time that I thought that was a big mistake because he comes across as somebody who is not a team player. And it's really important for him to try to smash this image of himself as an egotist where he's totally self-centered and it's about him, but to present an image of somebody that is working for the good of greater things than himself. So my reaction when he refused to take the pledge initially was, you're violating the basic code even of employment. When an employer hires you, one of the first things they say is, are you a good team player? Meaning, when you don't get your way, when things aren't exactly the way you want them, are you still good-spirited? And I thought that he, as an employer par excellence, should know that. And he should have immediately said that he stands on a stage with worthy colleagues and he would support whoever the Republican nominee is. I think that's the gracious thing to do. I think he should have taken that issue off the table right away. And then the focus would have been on the substance of his personality, the substance of his career, and the substance of his policy positions. Instead, he didn't do it at the time. And I thought it hurt him because he came across as a sore loser and an egotist. But I'm happy to see that he changed his mind. And what is impressing me is that Donald Trump is learning on the job very quickly. His growth curve is extraordinary. He's becoming a better candidate by the minute. And it was a brilliant move on his part, not only to say that he was going to support the eventual Republican nominee, but also to hold a press conference to announce it. And therefore, the attention continues to remain on him as his poll numbers continue to rise. Listen to the announcement.
We've actually hit numbers as high as 35 and 40%. And frankly, I felt that the absolute best way to win and to beat the Democrats and very easily, I think, beat the Democrats, no matter who it may be, whether it's Hillary or anybody else. And I think maybe Hillary's going to have a very hard time, frankly, with what's happening, getting to the starting gate. The best way for the Republicans to win is if I win the nomination and go directly against whoever they happen to put up. And for that reason, I have signed the pledge. So I will be.
So he signed the pledge, and why did he do it? I think we can take him at his word. It is clearly the best strategy to achieve victory. The best strategy to achieve victory within the Republican Party, and the best strategy to achieve victory with his eye on the general election. Within the Republican Party, this basically takes the issue off the table, and it also ensures that the other candidates have to support him if he clinches the nomination. So the pledge is a two-way street. Not only does he have to support the others, but others are required to take it, and therefore he can be assured that if he wins, he's going to move forward, not with some member of the GOP that is disgruntled with his brand breaking away and challenging him. So I think we should just take him at his word. It is the best strategy to win. He is right. It is a brilliant move. And also, as was explained by one of his former top advisors, it ensures that the Republican Party will apply all the same rules to him that they are applying to the other candidates. There really has been a danger for a while that he might be blackballed from certain debates. Also, he risked not being on some primary ballots because he refused to sign that pledge. So doing so ensures it clears the path for him within the Republican Party, and it makes sure it inoculates him from some dirty tactics that the Republican Party might have been tempted to pull on him throughout the course of the campaign. Listen to his former advisor, Roger Stone, explaining the nature of this victory.
Well, this is the art of the deal. I mean, Donald Trump has run a brilliant stratagem here. Only a month ago, the New York Times was reporting that Rubio, Bush, and Walker's campaigns were in discussions about boycotting the Fox debate if Trump were in it. In 19 states, the Republican bosses, the Republican establishment, can keep Trump off the ballot with the stroke of a pen. It is fresh in the mind of a lot of conservatives, the hardball tactics that were used on Congressman Ron Paul, a Republican congressman who ran for president, changing the rules at the last minute to undo his candidacy. So all Trump really was doing here was, in my opinion, running a bluff, or let's call it a threat, that if he was not given equal access to the process, if he was blocked from the debates, if he was excluded, that he would run as a third-party candidate. In fact, legally, by the end of September, he would have to change his voter registration here in New York State in order to do that. So the truth is, he's given up very little. Now, what did he get in return? 16 career politicians, 16 insiders are now committed to support Trump if he is the nominee. This was a win-win for Donald Trump.
It sure was a huge win. And you know what? You have to think of it from his point of view. He now says, okay, I'm not going to launch an independent run if I am not the nominee. But this document that he signs, it's not legally binding. Now, at the press conference, he said he could envision no scenario in which he would change his mind. But you know what? There's always a way to find a tiny little loophole if he really wanted to change his mind. For example, if he should lose, and then he decides, you know what, after all, I do want to run as an independent, he could find some example of not having been treated fairly. He could find some grievance that he could use to justify why he can run as an independent. So for him, it is going to be a strategy which clears the way going forward, but also because it's not legally binding, it leaves a small door open in case there are some dirty tactics from the Republican Party. But you know what? The Republican Party now has a vested interest in not doing that to him, in not blackballing him, in not mistreating him. First of all, everyone in the media and his fellow contenders have seen what happens when you do try to mistreat him. You get punched right in the eye. And as Trump brilliantly explained during that press conference, all those who attack him, ultimately they're seeing their poll numbers go down. Why? Because he's really very effective at the counter punch. If you knock him, he'll knock you 10 times harder and 10 times faster and actually knock you down. And the Republican Party now realizes this is a fight that we're not going to win. And think about it from the point of view of a Republican chairman like Reince Priebus. You now have 3 of the top candidates, Trump, Carson, and Fiorina, who are outsiders, and they really represent a profound anger against the Republican establishment. You've got to get the situation under control. You've got to get the party unified if you're going to win in the general election. You've got to make sure that the really angry Tea Party base and the establishment, at the end of the day, can join hands and go up against the Democrats. So from Reince Priebus's point of view, the Republican Party chairman, this had to be done. He needs unity in order to defeat the Democrats. And he was asked by Tucker Carlson on Fox News, well, wait a minute, what happens if Donald Trump ultimately, let's say he loses the nomination, and then he runs as a third party anyways? Are you worried about that? Do you fear this? Listen to his answer. It's very revealing.
Donald Trump starts to lose, and then he loses. Do you really think he'll be able to decelerate? I mean, do you really believe that he wouldn't run third party?
Really, I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, what matters is today. And you know, sure, I mean, people, you can rip up whatever agreement you want and say, I've changed my mind. But I think that when someone puts their name on a piece of paper and says to the American people that I give you my word, and when the other candidates raise their hand and say, I'm not going to run as an independent, I think that means something. I think it means something when you run for president. Yeah. And when Donald Trump was asked today, is there anything that would change your mind? He said, there's nothing that would change my mind. This is what I'm doing. So you're right. It's possible. But I'd rather be where I am today than in a place where you have candidates that wouldn't pledge. So I've got to do what I have to do to put the party in the best position to win.
So basically, he said, this is the best we could get. I mean, there is no way to structure anything different, right? This is the best you could possibly do. You can't legally compel a candidate not to run as a third party. This is the best that he could do. And he realized that if he doesn't do something like this, you basically have an ongoing civil war within the Republican Party, a civil war that could spill over beyond the general election campaign, regardless of who the nominee is, and totally destroy the Republican Party's chances of being dominant in 2016. Right now, if you're a Republican leader, you say this: we have the House, we have the Senate, and we're very, very close to getting the presidency too. What's going on the other side? Hillary's campaign is in shambles. So even if she becomes the nominee, she's going to be easy to defeat. If she isn't the nominee, who can it be? Bernie Sanders? He's a left-wing Looney Tunes socialist that's going to be easy to defeat. And the other prospect that the GOP faces is Joe Biden. And Joe Biden has a list of gaffes so long, it is absolutely staggering. So they figure even if it's Joe Biden, even if it's Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren, they can be defeated. Essentially, anybody that the Democrats are going to put forward at this time can be crushed. And the only enemy we face is the enemy within. A party so divided that the vote is ultimately splintered if you have any third-party candidacy. And so from the Republican point of view, of course you've got to squash that. Of course you've got to unify the party. And of course you've got to concede. At this point, even the Republican establishment realizes you've got to concede. If it's an outsider, if it's somebody like Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, Ted Cruz, who, is the opposition within the movement, the opponent of the establishment, or Donald Trump, any of these figures, you have to concede if they win, we're going to have to rally behind them if we truly want to seize the presidency in 2016. So essentially, you've got a win-win situation. This is the art of the deal right in front of our eyes. Donald Trump wins. Reince Priebus wins. The Republican Party wins. And the voters win. If this is an example of how effective Donald Trump can be at debating and winning, we have an optimistic road ahead. This is Dr. Grace, upholding values that will never die.
This I know. This I know. She told me don't worry about it. She told me don't worry no more.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
I think that I found myself a cheerleader. She is always right there when I need her.
Welcome back. So we have been analyzing Donald Trump's pledge now to not run as an independent. But you know what? In that press conference, he had some other moments which were just as important and very impressive. One of the things that I haven't seen enough from Donald Trump is to be able to celebrate American ideals and to really present an image of himself as a unifier. Now, he has been tough when he talks about immigration, as he should be. He's been tough when he talks about our porous border, as he should be. He's been tough when he talks about illegals who commit crimes, as he should be. All that has been a key to his soaring poll numbers. But if he wants to get beyond that, he also has to do something else. He has to embody American ideals and embody American graciousness. This is a graceful country. This is a grand country. And it is a country that has, by and large, benefited by the contribution from legal immigrants. And there was a section in his press conference that I thought was masterful, and he needs to do a lot more of this. Listen.
Well, one of the things I want to do, and I feel very strongly, it's a country based on borders, and our country is based on laws. And when people come into the country illegally, we should not allow that. And this is not from South America. This is not from Mexico. This is from all over the world. When people come illegally, we cannot allow that. And I want people to come legally. I want very much to take care of our border, because our southern border is a total mess. That's been proven. And interestingly, a couple of months ago when I announced, I made some very strong statements about the crime and the problems that were happening, and I've been proven right. And many of the people in this audience actually have apologized to me, which I very much appreciate. Of course, they haven't done it publicly, but these are minor details. Someday they will. The fact is that we are a nation that wants and needs borders. We're a nation that wants and needs and is based on laws. And we will make sure that that takes place. With that being said, I want people to come into our country legally. I want to have a big, fat, beautiful, open door. I want people of great talent to come in for Silicon Valley. I want engineers. I want physicists. I want people with great talent to come into the United States. When people graduate from college, you can be #1 in your class at Harvard, or #1 at Yale, or the Wharton School of Finance, or Princeton, or Stanford. And immediately, if you're not a citizen of the United States, you get thrown out of the country. We want those people to stay. We want people of great talent to be in the United States, to work here, and ultimately to become a citizen.
Brilliant. Perfect. So this is what we want to hear from Donald Trump. not just who we're excluding and how we're excluding people, but who we're including and how we're including them, with beautiful, soaring rhetoric. I love the line he used. He wants a big, fat, beautiful, open door. That made me smile, because this is what America is all about. We're not a narrow country. We've always been a country of laws, but a country with a big heart, a country that embraces others and embraces diverse peoples. What I found impressive, too, by what he said is, this is common sense. We want to be a country that drains the brains from other countries. So we want the top minds to come here. That's what we have always done. In fact, in Canada, where I'm originally from, as Canadians, we often talk about the problem of a brain drain. That is, leading minds leaving Canada to go to the U.S. Well, now that I'm in the U.S., a permanent resident of this great country, I realize how important it is for America to keep doing that. What kind of immigrants do we want? We want the best of the best of the best. So if you have students who come here on a student visa because they're awesome in a particular field, then they graduate, they've done everything legally, we want to keep those people here. And that's also part of the American dream, the vision that we put forward, that you can come from anywhere, you can come from any walk of life, and if you do everything right, if you follow the laws of this country, if you respect this country, if you work hard and you're perseverant and you're genuinely talented, you can soar as high as you want to go. We will allow you to do that. Not only that, we will embrace you. That is America. That is the beacon that shines for the whole world. And I hope that Donald Trump does a lot more of that. Not just talk about how we want to be tough on the undesirables, the criminals, how we want to be tough on those who don't respect American laws and don't want to assimilate, but also how we want to extend an open hand to those who want to come here legally and have the talents, the hard work, and the perseverance to make contributions to this society. That is going to be a winning message for him if he keeps on doing it. I love that. A big, fat, beautiful, open door. Yes, what a brilliant juxtaposition. A secure, lawful border, but a big, fat, beautiful, open door. Bingo. And something else he said there that was extremely impressive. If he wants to keep soaring in the polls, he needs to distinguish himself from the rest of the field. And what he's doing, very different than Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, also a very wealthy guy, but Mitt Romney didn't seem to stand so much outside the political process with his wealth. In fact, the Democrats were able to label him as somebody who uses the system to his own advantage. Instead, Donald Trump is being able to use his wealth as part of his outsider standing. Listen to this clip.
Now, Jeb Bush also just went down in the Monmouth poll, very big. So, I don't know. I mean, he's going to spend lobbyists' money and special interest money. Remember this, they have total control over Jeb and Hillary and everybody else that takes that money. Nobody knows the system better than me. They have total control. You understand it very well because you've been covering it for a long time. Those people that are putting up those millions of dollars have total control over your candidate. I will tell you this. Nobody's putting up millions of dollars for me. I'm putting up my own money. In fact, I feel a little bit foolish. People are offering me millions and millions of dollars. You know, when you're in first place, you can collect so much money. And I keep turning them down. I feel like Am I a fool? I feel very foolish. And when I was in Iowa last week, I said, what do you think? Can I take, one man offered me, a big lobbyist, offered $5 million for my campaign. I said to the crowd in Iowa, great crowd, 4,000 people, I said, can I take it? And will you believe I'm not going to do anything? I promise you, I swear to you, I won't do anything. And they all stood up and said, no, no, don't take it. The fact is, I'm the only self-funder. I'm putting up my own money. I know there have been some super PACs, 5 or 6 super PACs, where people are forming super PACs for Trump. I have nothing to do with them. As you know, you're not allowed to have anything to do with them. So I don't know what they're going to do. Hopefully, if they're going to do something, it's going to be nice, but I don't know anything about them.
So, another brilliant move. He is the billionaire, the multi-billionaire, who is really part of the vilified 1%, right? No, not so fast. What Donald Trump is doing is he's the billionaire, but he's on the side of the people. Why? Because he's not controlled by the money that comes from lobbyists. Lobbyists who want total control. He should continue to hit that theme very, very hard, because one of the appeals of his candidacy is that he cannot be bought. And the more he says that he cannot be bought, the perception is if he cannot be bought, then he represents the will of the people. He represents the people's interests against a corrupt Washington machine where lobbyists on K Street and politicians on Capitol Hill grease each other's, line each other's pockets, grease one another, all at the expense of the American people, all at the expense of good laws and sound public policy. The lobbyists who give money, he said, have total control, and he knows it because he's been on the other end where he gave money, and even though you don't have to say it at the time, you don't have to say what you want for that money. So it's not technically, it's not illegal. You give money, but believe me, when that donor comes back in a few months or a few years and needs something, the politician is in his debt and usually provides that favor. Why? Because he's going to need that donor again for the next campaign. And that's the vicious cycle that we're in, where the interests of a few are being advanced and the interests of the many are being left behind. So this, too, was another very solid moment that Donald Trump had this week, and that's why his poll numbers continue to rise. I was recently on the phone with one of my good friends, and she said, well, what do you think of Trump? And I said, look, I've had a lot of reservations about him. I've been an outspoken critic of him. But I can tell you there's a few things that he's doing now that is beginning to impress me. He's becoming a better candidate. And also, I shared this story with her, which I want to share with all of you. Recently, I had the pleasure of meeting a few Donald Trump campaign staff members who are working in New Hampshire, trying to set up a major town hall event. And we had an extraordinary dinner in New Hampshire. And we also had a long conversation, and I learned a great deal about Donald Trump based on that conversation. These two staffers told me that the man works extremely hard. He doesn't stop working. In fact, he still sleeps only 3 hours a night. I said, you know, a person with that kind of money, you would think that they would slow down. You would think that they would take it easy. You think that they would coast. Instead, they said, no, he's a ferociously hardworking individual. And he's working very, very hard on his campaign. Well, what do you mean? Give me some examples. They said, for example, that before he delivers a speech, he studies the facts that he's going to incorporate in that speech very carefully. So the perception is that, you know, he speaks right off the cuff, right from the top of his head. In parts, he clearly does. But the bedrock of his speech is rooted in facts that he has studied very, very carefully. So he's really diligent in getting the facts. He even goes to the primary sources of specific facts. For example, he'll go to a specific government agency to get the facts from the primary source. So they told me how hard he works. And another example is, before we have these town halls, often we have a moment in which maybe 20 minutes or so, behind a curtain, there is a meet and greet for VIPs, very important people. Well, they said that he will ask the staff to give him printed biographies of all the VIPs that are going to be present. And he will study their bios so that when he meets them, he knows exactly who he's meeting. He knows elements of their biography that are going to be relevant to that conversation. Again, very impressive. And I think the most impressive thing they told me about him is that every time he goes off the stage, he will turn to his staffers and say, hey, did I just mess up? How did I do? Basically, this man, who was a multi-billionaire, very successful in many different enterprises, will turn to the young people on his staff and ask them for constructive criticism. He'll ask them for that constructive criticism, not just when he walks off the stage, but even over dinner. So I got a glimpse into the real Donald Trump. What is that? That is a person who on stage acts like he's talking off the cuff. But now we know, in reality, there's a lot of hard work behind those speeches. On stage, he presents a huge, giant ego, a person that's not humble. But off the stage, I now know he's a person that is always soliciting constructive criticism, and it takes a lot of humility to do that. So my recommendation to Donald Trump is he should show more of that to the public. Make all of what I'm telling you, this insider knowledge, more visible to the public. Because by the time I got off the phone with my friend, when I told her what I had experienced, she said, wow, he's gone up a whole lot more in my estimation based on what you just said. And I said, I've got to confess, that was my perception too. Because one of the things I dislike about him is this egocentric persona that he puts forward. If he truly has humility, he should showcase that humility. He works hard for his campaign and for the people. He should show that because that makes people respect him more and admire him more. So we're seeing a lot of big steps being made by Donald Trump this week, big steps forward, a huge improvement in his delivery, a huge improvement as a candidate, and brilliant moves every step of the way, signing that campaign pledge, extending an open hand with great rhetoric to legal immigrants, and also emphasizing how he will not be controlled by lobbyists because he continues to be a self-funder. All in all, an excellent week for Donald Trump.
I got somebody at home. It's been a long night here and a long night there.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
It's my life, it's now or never. I ain't gonna live forever.
Well, talk about a study in contrasts. As Donald Trump makes the right moves on the GOP side, Hillary Clinton and her entire staff and the Democratic Party itself are making all the wrong moves. This week, more bad news for Hillary Clinton, more emails released, and the emails showing that there was so much classified information. It wasn't just 2 or 3 or 4. We're now talking about hundreds of emails that had classified content on them. And so regardless of what happens, whether or not she's prosecuted or not, she comes across as totally incompetent and negligent. To make matters even worse for her, Brian Palliano, who was a technology officer in the State Department, he is a longtime aide of Hillary Clinton's. He also helped to set up her server in New York, that homebrew server. He has told the FBI that he is going to plead the fifth. very, very damaging to Hillary Clinton. Why should he plead the fifth? Why is it that if he answers any questions, he's a tech guy, for crying out loud, why is it that if he answers any questions, he would incriminate himself? That raises more huge red flags. In fact, Paliano had declined to testify to a congressional committee investigating the death of Chris Stevens, the ambassador who died in Benghazi. And now he's declining to talk to the FBI about this whole server setup. This stinks to high heaven. And it's also really disgusting that you see how Hillary Clinton embroils others in her machinations. Now, this man, who is basically a guy that just knows about technology, how many times in the workplace do we pick up the phone and call somebody from IT and say, "Hi, I need help"? That kind of person has to deal with the stress, the anxiety of congressional committees, FBI investigations, pleading the fifth. That's the kind of destruction that the Clintons bring wherever they go. And apart from this, more deplorable fallout. Her spokespeople, they can't answer basic questions. They're dodging, they're bobbing, they're weaving, and they sound ridiculous. Even CNN, folks working at CNN are astonished at the responses that they're getting, and they're persisting in their questions. Listen to this exchange of a spokesperson for the Clinton camp, Brian Fallon. Roll it.
Sure. Okay, so let me try to be as clear as possible, and you can follow up and ask if anything's unclear. She provided 55,000 pages of emails. It's true that she provided them in hard copy. That's what the law required. If the law or the State Department had asked for them to be provided electronically, we would have done that. The law required them to be provided in paper form. She made the decision after that to not retain those, other than a copy that was kept. It wasn't kept on the server, Brianna, but a copy was kept by her personal attorney.
Why didn't she keep them on the server?
I don't know what the pertinence of that would have been. She did keep a copy of it in the possession, an electronic copy,
well,
in the possession of her lawyer.
Well, a judge has suggested that Cheryl Mills keep hers in her email account. Why wouldn't Hillary Clinton do that? Many records experts say
the same
emails,
Brianna, the same emails were kept. An electronic copy of them were kept by David Kendall. And then last month we provided them to the Justice Department. So no emails were lost in this process. I think that people are focusing on the wrong thing. The State Department had them in paper copy, and then last month the Justice Department received an electronic copy.
Just to be clear, Brian, this is an electronic copy that I imagine is a PDF form that David Kendall retained, or is this the actual email with the metadata on it?
So the Justice Department, in addition to having the electronic form of the PDFs that was provided to the State Department, they also now have the server. So I don't know what the FBI is going to do with it, but they very well may seek to perform any type of operation on it. And if they do,
server, right, Brian?
I don't know what wiped means. The emails were deleted. The emails were deleted. The emails were deleted, but I think when you say wiped.
But I'm asking you about the thumb drives. You said that David Kendall had the electronic copies of the emails. Those were PDF copies, right? And I ask you this because I've tried to get this answered and I haven't been able to.
Yes,
these were not
right.
the actual emails
correct.
that had the metadata. These were not the emails as you would see them on a server if they hadn't been. Do you see what I'm saying?
They're
These aren't
PDFs
the actual
on a thumb drive.
emails in electronic
right, but I'm not
form.
sure what point you're making.
He's not sure what point she's making. He's totally sure what point she's making. It's very obvious. If the attorney has copies of the emails in question, and these are PDF copies, that means that you can't see very clearly all the emails that have come before or after in any specific correspondence. That's the point. You can just choose some emails to put in a PDF format and give them to the attorney. And then he's asked point blank, well, you mean he says the FBI has the server. And he says the FBI has it. She says, you mean the wiped server? I don't know what wiped means. Again, following through on these talking points that are failing. Hillary Clinton said that in a press conference before when she was asked by Ed Henry about the wiped server. What do you mean wiped? You mean wipe with a cloth? And now here he is again, playing dumb, dodging, and ultimately by persisting, she does extract a key piece of information. The attorney did have copies of these, but guess what? They were copies in a PDF format, which means you cannot see the full correspondence. That's why she should have kept everything on the server as is. In case there are any questions, what email came before this one? What email came after that one? You can go to the server and you can say, see, that's where all the originals are. So they gave all of this information to an attorney in a PDF format. Now we know that a lot of that information was classified. Was the attorney qualified to have this classified information in his possession? That's a problem right there. And we see this pattern of not wanting to answer straight questions. And finally, when they answer the question, the information they give is damaging, and they look like fools. They look like idiots. Their answers are getting more and more ludicrous. I don't know what wiped means. This is laughable. This is an age in which everybody knows what wiping a server means, especially those who are complicit in having done it, right? Well, things are bad and getting worse by the day for Hillary Clinton. Some have said on the record that she is now in a death spiral, meaning that she has lost so much credibility and she's refusing to answer straight questions, obviously because she can't, because she's hiding things. As the information pours forward, her credibility is diminishing by the day, and her reputation as somebody who is lying and as somebody who has something to hide, that is rising by the day. And when you ask folks on the street, remember when they did all these men on the street interviews about Hillary Clinton a few months ago, they would all say they love Hillary Clinton. You ask her, what did she achieve? Nobody knows. Now, a lot of these men on the street interviews, you ask about Hillary Clinton, and they say, well, it looks like she's got something to hide. I'm getting a little bit nervous about her. And a couple of times they were asked, what about Joe Biden's candidacy? If he jumps in, would you prefer him? And many of the folks interviewed on a campus where Joe Biden recently spoke, they said, yeah, we would prefer Joe Biden. So essentially, this is making the Democratic base really nervous. And let's look at the alternative that the Democrats have. They have Joe Biden in the wings trying to determine whether or not he's going to jump in. And this is what he said this week.
Well, I will be straightforward with you. The most relevant factor in my decision is whether my family and I have the emotional energy to run. Some might think that is not appropriate. But unless I can go to my party and the American people and say that I am able to devote my whole heart and my whole soul to this endeavor, it would not be appropriate. And everybody talks about a lot of other factors, the other people in the race, and whether I can raise the money and whether I can put together an organization. That's not the factor. The factor is, can I do it? Can my family undertake what is an arduous commitment that would be proud to undertake under ordinary circumstances? But the honest to God answer is I just don't know.
Well, you can tell by the speed of that response, meaning how slow he is talking, that he is deep in mourning. I think that he was really sincere when he laid that answer out there. I think that it's very clear that he is devastated by the loss of his son, Beau Biden. And he is talking like somebody who is in the throes of a depression that comes on from tremendous grief. And look, I can tell you this as somebody who has twice gone through mourning, once in my 20s when I lost my dad, and another time in my late 30s when I lost my mom. And when you lose somebody dear to you, it is such a shock to the system that no matter how strong you are, you really just can't think straight. You can't function as you previously did. When I lost my mom and I was in my 30s, and that's losing somebody who was in her 70s, right? There's some comfort in losing somebody that has had a full life. At least you can say they had many years on this earth. Still, it took me years and years to recover from that. I lost interest in all the things that I used to find fun and interesting. I just didn't care. And it takes a while to refine the joy in life and to refine one's passion, to care about the things that seemed so important just before the loss of that beloved person. You just don't care about anything. And I think that it's clear by his speech how slow he's delivering that answer, that he really has the blues. And he may not be fit to undertake a campaign. Now, on the plus side, the fact that he's in mourning and he's lost this beloved member of the family, it does endear him to the public. People respond with sympathy to somebody who is suffering. So I think that an honest response like this is going to actually accelerate the draft Joe Biden movement, because it's even such a contrast to the duplicity, the inauthenticity that we talk about every day regarding Hillary Clinton and her entire staff. He may be in mourning, he may not be fit to lead, but at least he seems to be a human being with real emotions going through something that everybody can relate to. A blow to the system that leads you to question everything around you and leads you to lose interest in doing the things you formerly loved. However Joe Biden decides, whatever he decides, whether he runs or he doesn't run, the Republican Party has a golden opportunity to sail to the White House in 2016. Because even if Biden runs, you can see that he is a weaker Biden based on this devastating blow that he has received. This is Dr. Grace, upholding values that will never die.
It's too late to apologize. It's too late.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up.
This week it was a no-brainer. Who should be told to just shut up? Kanye West, of course, who was on MTV's VMA Awards. He received an award, and then he went on and on in a rambling speech. He even admitted during that speech that he had smoked up before delivering the speech in order to, quote-unquote, take the edge off. Well, he went on, and his wife, Kim Kardashian, was in the audience. And the whole time, she had like a strange grimace on her face because it was clear she was thinking, boy, he's not making any sense and he's really making a fool of himself. But at the same time, the audience was applauding at times. So there was a contrast between what she was seeing and what she was hearing. And even she couldn't square it. Well, Kanye West is obviously just full of himself. And there he was receiving an honorary award. And he opined that there's actually a problem with the whole process of awards shows. Listen to this.
Sometimes I feel like, all this they run about beef and all that, sometimes I feel like I died for the artist's opinion, for artists to be able to have an opinion after they were successful. I'm not no politician, bro. And look at that. You know how many times MTV ran that footage again? Because it got them more ratings. You know how many times they announced Taylor was going to give me the award? Because it got them more ratings. Listen to the kids, bro. I still don't understand award shows. I don't understand how they get 5 people who work their entire life, one, sold records, sold concert tickets, to come, stand on a carpet, and for the first time in their life, be judged on a chopping block and have the opportunity to be considered a loser.
Boy, is he full of himself. Award shows actually celebrate the artists who are nominated, you moron. And everybody knows that when you're nominated, it's a great honor to be nominated. That's why everybody wants the nomination. And that gives you more fans, more record sales, more concert tickets sold, and more money. Kanye? But you know what? Obviously, he has a very low IQ. His grammar is atrocious. He can't even string sentences together in a proper manner. And he's obviously so full of himself. He died, for the sake of the artist. He would die to defend artists. He's basically trying to redeem himself after that appalling incident in which he stood in Taylor Swift's way when she won an award. That's what he referenced at the beginning of this rambling speech. Well, he's trying to redeem himself, but at the same time, he can't speak good English. At the same time, he doesn't understand that anybody nominated for an award is receiving a very high honor, and that's why everyone goes to these award shows, and that's why millions of fans tune into these award shows. And then finally, he drops the bomb, and this is it.
This is a new mentality. We're not going to control our kids with brands. We're not going to teach low self-esteem and hate to our kids. We're going to teach our kids that they can be something. We're going to teach our kids that they can stand up for themselves. We're going to teach our kids to believe in themselves. If my grandfather was here right now, he would not let me back down. I don't know what I'm finna lose after this. It don't matter though, because it ain't about me. It's about ideas, bro. New ideas. People with ideas. People who believe in truth. And yes, as you probably could have guessed by this moment, I have decided in 2020 to run for president.
Kanye, not only should you not run for president, you should never get high before delivering a speech because you are rambling, and you should just shut up. Hey, it's Labor Day weekend, time to celebrate all the hard work that we put in every day at our jobs. In this country, we need to celebrate work for its own sake. Work is a virtue, whether or not it makes big money or not. I hope we return to that standard. That's what I'm meditating on this Labor Day weekend. How do we get Americans of all walks of life to love working? That's what made America great. And nowadays, it seems that work is validated only if it brings big money. And I think we are off the mark with that ethic. We need to return to a work ethic that values and celebrates work for its own sake. Happy Labor Day weekend to everybody out there. Have a blast. I will, with my family coming from Ohio, celebrating with my nephews. This is Dr. Grace, upholding values that will never die.
Well, if you ask me where This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.